I'm Angie Crider, and I had 3 abortions in 10 months, and I regret my abortions. Okay, this took place in the early 90s. I was living in California with my husband at the time, and it was in July. I remember getting pregnant the first time. And, I called my mom and I told her that I was pregnant. And in her deep Catholic faith, all she said was, "You can't," she says, "Angie, that's murder." And I thought, well, you know what? This is my choice. And I told her, I'm going to do this. I was at the height of my fitness career, living in California. The last thing I wanted was to be fat and have a baby. I was not going to put myself through that. And my husband didn't really do anything to try to stop me because there was no way he could. And one of those rides, he didn't take me. Actually, a friend took me. And then when it was the second one, another friend took me. And when I went into Planned Parenthood, the second time they said, you might consider taking birth control. And I didn't. And then I got pregnant a third time. And I remember coming out of the clinic that day, and he had picked me up, and it was hot and it was humid. And I just remember just sitting there, just blah, like it didn't affect me. Oh, I regret it right away. But many years later, my life, well, when I found out that I was pregnant, I, of course, asked around, hey, where can I get abortion? Where's in there? And I was told Planned Parenthood, which I went to the one in Southern California. And when I went in the first time, the receptionist or the nurse, they were very nice and, told me, made it sound like, this is okay and it's going to be fine. And at that time, for me, yeah, you know what? It's just some simple little procedure and they're going to do it and I'm going to be out. And so, just so I remember kind of standing there in a gown, and there were some other girls kind of before me. One girl didn't want to be put out. I could just kind of hear her screaming. And then I knew I wanted something. And the next thing I knew, I woke up in a recovery room. And then pretty much, okay, and that was it. Went and, left. Got it done and left. Planned Parenthood told me that I'm going to see there's going to be people outside and that they're going to be trying to talk me out of it, the whole 9 yards. And they told me I should just keep going. And there was a side door I could go in. And I did. I went ahead and went to that side door and I was. And I didn't stop I just went in. I didn't engage with any of them. I didn't let them talk to me. I didn't want to hear what they have to say. So I left. But the guilt and shame and all that really came down the line, and I fell into alcoholism, used drugs, a lot of sexual sin, sleeping around with everybody, just doing anything I could to not feel any pain, but I didn't know I was going to have any feelings. I just didn't care. And that's the way it was in all 3 abortions. Okay, so after my abortions, my life completely spiraled out of control. I was a train wreck, and I was full-blown alcoholic. I was deep in my alcoholism, and one night I thought I could drive, and I actually had alcohol in the car, and next thing I know, I see those lights right behind me. I didn't pass the sobriety test. I was taken to jail. I had to spend the night there. And I have a mug shot that's just beautiful. It would make any parent happy. And my booking information. And that was in July of 2002. And then I was invited to go to an AA meeting. And my last drink was on August 25th of 2002. And God even freed me completely from that. And I never needed I never needed meetings. And so I am no longer an alcoholic because he took that away. Okay, so many, many, many years later, I had actually met a gentleman, met him in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous because I was a full-blown alcoholic. We started dating, and by October of 2002, I found myself pregnant. And I was not saved. I wasn't anything. I was doing what I did except drinking and drugging, but I did. I got pregnant. I found out in October of 2002. I even did 3 pregnancy tests. I went to a doctor because I so didn't want to believe. And I thought, well, I had 3 abortions. How can I possibly be pregnant? And when I told him, his reaction was, woohoo, now we'll be together forever. And mine inside was like, I don't know this man, barely don't know him. There is no way I'm having this baby. And when I told him, I said, well, you know what? I want an abortion. I don't barely know you. I want an abortion. Yeah, I didn't. I even tried to self-abort. I did. I thought, you know what? If he's not going to take me, I'm going to do it on my own. And I did. I tried to self-abort and I tried a lot and he would not take me to the clinic. And I don't know really where it was. It might have been Columbus, sort of, but he was not going to take me. And I said, you know what? I want to have an abortion. I don't really know you. And he said, you know what? You just have the baby. You don't have to do a thing after that baby's born because I will raise that baby on my own. And if at some point you do want contact but he said, you're not having an abortion. You just have the baby. And then I actually started liking the idea and liking what it felt like to be pregnant. I started taking care of myself, walking and drinking water. And then it was like, wow. And I do remember everything leading up to the birth. But I'll tell you, God protected that little one inside me. There was no way he was going to let her be aborted. But that's what happened. I would have aborted her if he would have said yes. And now today, after having her, I was never so happy when I found out I had a daughter, because my mom actually prayed and said, Lord, let her have a daughter. She'll probably never have another one. 7 pounds, 19 inches long. And I just remember the birth was easy. And when I found out I had a daughter, and then it was like, wow, because she's such a blessing. But I really thought my thing was, why would God let me become pregnant after already having 3? So life really changed for me in 2005. I started going to a Bible-based church, and in 2005, at the beginning, a pastor shared a message on the sanctity of human life. I was sitting in that service, and I went up to him right away afterwards and said, I've had 3 abortions. I have to talk to you. And we did. We spoke in his office. We talked about salvation. We talked about forgiveness. And on Good Friday, 2005, I was sitting in a service where he was actually preaching the message. And I was looking right up at this big cross. And I knew instantly that something had changed. I just felt it from there. And I could tell. I learned when the Holy Spirit was talking to me. I mean, I can't even tell you how many things God has freed me from, how many things he's done. I was led to Rachel's Vineyard, which is a beautiful retreat for women who have had abortions. It was the most healing, but the most emotional thing I've ever gone through. I had a chance to name my 3 children. You birth them, and you also grieve them. So it was, but there are so many, there's programs that, because women don't suffer in silence. Tell someone. But I'll be honest, that guilt and all that did not really set in as I grew in my relationship with Christ. Today I know I'm forgiven. I know there's no condemnation in Jesus, but as I grew and started to hear more about abortion, seeing more pictures, and when Mother's Day comes, that's a very emotional time for me when that happens, because I always think, what would my children have looked like? Because my husband was Israeli, and I often think, what would they have looked like? Gosh, and now they're probably, I don't know, maybe in their 30s if I did this in the early 90s, but and the more pictures I see, I'm like, this is what I did when I was supposed to be their protector. This is what I did. Okay, as I look back over my life, I see just how faithful God has been by blessing me with a daughter. I remember holding her for the first time, and she was just so little, and it was like the love I felt for this little baby that I'm just so blessed by the fact that he would still entrust me with a child even after I had aborted 3 children. And Amber, my daughter, and I are best friends. I became a single mom because her dad passed away. I became single mom, and we are each other's best friends today. And I'm blessed beyond anything. And God has been immensely good to both of us. And I don't know what I'd do without her. I came to realize on Good Friday just how sinful my actions were by aborting my children. And I was forgiven. I am forgiven. There is no sin so great that God will not forgive, because that's why Jesus went to the cross and poured out his blood so I could be forgiven. And my life has changed ever since.